Page 2 now, the president's deal with the devil. President Trump is a political maverick, and he is hitting GOP leadership with his presidential hooves right now. However, this deal that he struck with Democrat leadership to fund government, raise the debt ceiling, and proffer Hurricane Harvey relief is now emboldening them. And so there is apparently a new paradigm developing on Capitol Hill. President Trump making deals with the devils, a.k.a. the Democrats. But here's the problem. In the end, in order to advance the Trump agenda, this won't continue, right? Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., spokeswoman for Americans for Limited Government, Jessie Jane Duff. Jessie Jane, this is the art of the deal. Let's face it. The Republican leadership had better get its act together. That's the message from the President of the United States. But here's what worries me. In the long run, this thing could backfire on the 45th president. I think we need to be smart and be ready for something like that.
I agree completely. The problem with these Republicans is they have been dragging their butts along all year long. They've done everything to resist every effort by this president. And I think he flipped the script on them, and he flipped it pretty hard because, of course, all of us are sitting back barely able to breathe right now that we've done a deal with, as you said, the devil. We've got Nancy Pelosi and Schumer just gloating vigorously. That is dangerous. But let's also explain to the American people, I think the Republicans brought this upon themselves. They have definitely not played along. They have the power to accomplish so much, and we've accomplished so little.
Yeah, essentially, the Republican leadership painted the president into a corner. It's like a clogged political artery. And the president chose to surgically put a stent in there, if you will. That's a temporary solution. It is temporary. The long-term solution, if you're Mitch McConnell, would be to kill the filibuster and kill cloture and go to a pure, simple majority in the United States Senate to put this country back on the constitutional rails. On the other hand, you have Ryan and McConnell, who were clearly thrown under the bus, especially Paul Ryan, who just literally minutes prior to this deal being hammered out said this. Roll tape.
I think that's a ridiculous idea. I hope that they don't mean that. Let's just think about this. We've got all this devastation in Texas. We've got another unprecedented hurricane about to hit Florida. And they want to play politics with the debt ceiling? That will strand the aid that we need to bring to these victims of these storms that have occurred or are about to occur. And then they also want to threaten default on our debt. I think that's ridiculous and disgraceful.
All right. My history is pretty obvious on Paul Ryan, and that is I am not a fan of this person at all. That said, clearly, this has got a sting. And, you know, he's come out in public and said, hey, you know, in kind of nice platitudes regarding this. But I think that there's going to be a long memory on this one. And here's where that comes into play. The president can broker a deal for now on something like this. But to get his agenda across, the Republicans are still in the majority. And, of course, the Republicans are in charge of the Congress, whether President Trump likes it or not.
Well, what they also have to recognize is that in 3 months, this is when the DACA situation is going to have to come up. And we've lost all our leveraging on this now. Yeah. Essentially, in order for us to pull back on it, the Democrats are going to insist that we authorize the 800,000 illegals to get jobs in this country when we have 4.5 million Americans roughly in the same age bracket who are unemployed. So we're going to give them work permits, but we're not going to have jobs for our own U.S. citizens. And the Democrats hold those strings. So we've disabled ourselves when it comes to DACA, and I'm very nervous about that because that was something that people believed was going to get banned. However, President Trump apparently has indicated to Steve Mnuchin, his Secretary of Treasury, that he needed time to ensure that he had enough revenue for military. And he's very concerned with the conditions going on in North Korea and along with the Middle East and every other problem that we can name for our military right now. He wanted to ensure he had enough funds for that. Yeah. But I'm with you. You know, Paul Ryan really has been ruthless towards this president. So when he's finally now really pissed off, I'm like, well, you're the boy who cried wolf. You've been really pissed off a lot, Paul Ryan. So how am I supposed to take you seriously now? It's been continual with him.
Yeah. There's another angle to this, too, and this is what I really enjoy about President Trump, is that this could be all part of a rope-a-dope that he's trying to, kind of loop the Democrats into thinking that he actually will make further deals with them when hopefully he will not. Because, again, to get his agenda through, it can't happen. Now, I do call this a deal with the devil because if you ask President Reagan if he were alive today, he would tell you, yeah, don't do it because it can't be trusted. Two-thirds of this deal, just on its merits, two-thirds of it is, in my opinion, not so good. Maybe you could use the word terrible. Of course, the $8 billion for hurricane relief, that's fine. But the 3-month suspension of the debt limit and the continuing resolution funding government into December, here's the problem I have. Continuing resolution, what happened, Paul Ryan, to regular order? Huh? These people have had, what now? President Trump's been in office more than 8 months, okay? They've had time to work out regular order, not happening. And as far as the debt ceiling is concerned, again, the same Republicans, just like the Democrats coming out and saying the sky is falling if they don't raise the debt ceiling, they're not looking at the big picture here. They're not looking at the $20 trillion debt in this country. We shouldn't be raising the debt ceiling. We need to get our spending under control. The government will not default per the United States Constitution and the 14th Amendment. I just wish somebody would come out and tell the American people the truth.
Absolutely. And you know what, these Republicans, there's too many in there who claim the title Republican who are not Republican. They have been Republican in name only. They have resisted kicking and screaming only to give me the impression that they want to see the president fail. And I am very aghast that about 67% of the American public, when they've been surveyed, is very upset with this Republican leadership. And I think that if they had gotten on board in the past 8 months, they would not be having rope-a-dope pulled on them now, along with the Democrats, because everybody right now does not know which way President Trump is going to go. And I do like that he's keeping them on their toes. I am concerned, though, should the government get shut down because the Democrats don't play? Should it? Guess who's going to end up taking the blame for that? It's going to end up being President Trump.
And you know what? I
think
he's ready.
It's a very risky bargain.
I think he's ready. I think he's smarter than that.
So.
I really, when he said, hey, maybe a government shutdown is a good thing, I think he means it. I think he sees the big picture here. But Ryan and McConnell and the GOP leadership, they need to remember with whom they are dealing. He's a political maverick, and that's good and bad. But President Trump also needs to remember with whom he is dealing. These are people, the Republican leadership, who will cut off their nose to spite their face. In the end, this is not about Ryan. It's not about McConnell. It's not about President Trump. It's about us and this country and this very small window that we have to put this country back on the constitutional rails, and that window is now closing. Jesse, thanks.